Do you think the media is biased? Maybe they're leaving something out, or there's something they're not telling you. Now, you have a source for the truth in the news. W. Dean Shook, End Time News. Your connection to the signs of the times.
Mr. President, we have a national emergency.
This is one of the things that we can shoot first and ask questions later. Normally you can't do that.
All of a sudden these trees started moving out of the way. They parted for me. And then I came out into this opening, and there where I saw Jesus Christ.
Back in 1927, an American socialist, Norman Thomas, 6 times candidate for president on the Socialist Party ticket, said the American people would never vote for socialism. But he said under the name of liberalism, the American people will adopt every fragment of the socialist program. He is more imminent. James Madison, in 1788, speaking to the Virginia Convention, said, "Since the general civilization of mankind, I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachment of those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations." When men were free.
Broadcasting live from a secret location buried deep below the earth, you're about to make a connection to the signs of the times. W. Dean Shook is live on the air right now.
And welcome into End Time News. I am your host, W. Dean Shook. Thank you for joining me here today. I have an explosive update that was hard for me to believe. I ran across this first report a couple of days ago, and because I couldn't confirm it, I didn't bring it. I didn't put it on the air. But now, it's been confirmed. This is something everyone needs to know. As reported originally from WND, out of New York, it's common knowledge President Obama signed an executive order directing the Department of Homeland Security to forgive millions of illegals for their past violations of immigration law, right? Wrong. Yesterday, the National Archives and Records Administration, who's responsible for maintaining such filings, said no executive order was ever signed or filed. A National Archive librarian, Jeffrey Hartley, made the confirmation in an email Thursday to WND. It said, "As I indicated, it would appear that there's not an executive order stemming from the president's remarks on November 20th on immigration," Hartley wrote. Hartley said that neither of the executive orders that Obama signed in Las Vegas the day after his announcement fulfilled his plan to defer deportations and grant permits to up to 5 million illegal aliens. The only 2 documents that he has located are 2 presidential memorandas, which are available at the White House site. Hartley's email continued. They can also be found in the November 26, 2014 issue of the Federal Register. The 2 documents Hartley referenced were the 2 executive orders Obama signed in Las Vegas on November 21st. One was a presidential proclamation creating a White House task force on new Americans, and the other, a presidential memorandum instructing the Secretary of Homeland Security to consult with various governmental and non-governmental entities to reduce cost and improve service in issuing immigration and non-immigration visas. How, then, did the White House manage to convince the mainstream media, Congress, and the nation that Obama had signed in Las Vegas 2 executive orders to implement the immigration actions that he announced in his speech on November 20th? Well, on November 20th, approximately 6 p.m., the White House press office released a fact sheet titled Immigration Accountability Executive Action. Now, this was a fact sheet. The first sentence read, "The President's Immigration Accountability Executive Actions will help secure the border, hold nearly 5 million undocumented immigrants accountable, and ensure that everyone plays by the same rules, acting within his legal authority. The President is taking an important step to fix our broken immigration system." The second sentence stated, these executive actions crack down on illegal immigration at the border, prioritize deporting felons, not families, and require certain undocumented immigrants to pass a criminal background check, pay their fair share of taxes as they register to temporarily stay in the U.S. without fear of deportation. Now, while neither sentence claimed Obama was about to sign an implementing executive order, both conveyed the impression that executive actions would be taken to somehow legitimize the status of some 5 million illegal immigrants currently in this country. Now again, the National Archives and Records Administration, who's responsible for maintaining these filings, said no such executive order was ever signed or filed. So where's the confirmation of this? Well, according to Judicial Watch, who's reporting out of New York, that the following confirmation by the National Archives that President Obama did not sign an executive order to implement the immigration policy he announced to the nation, Washington-based judicial watchdog has called for an investigation into whether the White House has engaged in criminal conspiracy to spend taxpayer funds on unauthorized purposes. This according to Tom Fenton, president of Judicial Watch. He said the fact that President Obama did not sign an executive order appears to involve a recognition by the White House that the president did not have the authority to make these changes in immigration law outlined in his November 20th speech. Now, Fenton, in an interview with WND, argued executive orders are limited to facilitating the execution of law, not altering or establishing law. Barack Obama did not issue an executive order because he does not have the authority to issue an executive order in this instance. Fenton said he believes White House counsel concluded Obama lacked the authority to defer prosecutions under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, that's the DACA program, and decided to implement the policy through a memorandum issued by Department of Homeland Security Jeb Johnson. The memo was never filed with the Federal Register for a period of public comment, as federal law requires agency to do when making rules. Fenton said Jeb Johnson did the bidding of his boss, engaging in a political act, not a legal act. That involves misappropriating public funds to open offices and hire employees to implement the directive of Johnson's memorandum. Fenton noted that according to Johnson's memo, DHS will defer prosecution for 3 years and issue work authorization permits to qualified illegal parents for children who are U.S. citizens. He went on to say, I have long maintained there are political, criminal violations of the law in the federal government taking money from one purpose and spending it for another. He said the White House effort to suggest Obama had signed an executive order to implement his immigration plan had all of the earmarks of a cover-up of a criminal conspiracy. The federal government cannot spend money to violate immigration laws, Fenton said, pointing to the Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits government from creating an obligation to pay money before funds have been authorized. Let me say this again. The Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits government from creating an obligation to pay money before funds have been authorized. The penalties for violating the law are spelled out in Chapter 31 of U.S. Code, Section 1350. You can look this up yourself. This is Chapter 31 of the U.S. Code, Section 1350. He went on to say we can look at impeachment as a broad fight between the branches of government, Fenton said. But when you have executive branch officials taking action outside the law, there ought to be criminal consequences in addition to the constitutional checks that you have with impeachment. I'm saying these recent executive branch actions on immigration are ripe for criminal inquiry. And you can find these full stories at the website at wdeanshook.com. And reported by Breitbart News, According to Jeff Sessions, Obama wants executive actions implemented before Americans discover the grave consequences. On Thursday, Senator Jeff Sessions accused Obama of trying to implement his executive action that stains our legal system of our country before the American people figure out that the consequences are graver than a lot of people think right now. It's already starting. Sessions said on the Senate floor of the implementation of Obama's executive amnesty, while referring to reports that the Obama administration is already hiring thousands of agents who will be responsible for issuing temporary work permits and federal identification cards and Social Security numbers to illegal immigrants. Sessions accused Obama of trying to impose his immigration views before the Congress can contain it or restrain it, and before the American people fully understand what's happening, and to make it so it can't be stopped. Now, if this order has been signed, he said Obama has issued executive orders that will violate the laws of Congress because Obama wants to implement laws he wishes Congress had passed, but Congress has refused to pass. Sessions said Congress has a responsibility and a duty here. He said Congress should fund no program, should allow no presidential expenditure that is spent on programs it deems unworthy, and it absolutely has a responsibility to ensure that the president spends no money to execute policies that are in violation of existing law. Now, although Obama may very well be stopped by lawsuits in years to come, Sessions said that Congress has the power to stop it now. Sessions noted that federal officials are already rubber-stamping immigration applications, and illegal immigrants will get temporary amnesty and work permits without meeting with officials face-to-face, which will make it even tougher to prevent fraud. On a personal note, here's a rhetorical question. Is this just an elaborate con job to get Congress to move on immigration without the president actually violating the law himself? I'll be right back.
We have not massively expanded the welfare state. That's just not true.
Under the Obama administration, food stamp spending has surged. Do you think he is not aware of these numbers?
We have so many people who can't see a fat man standing beside a thin one without coming to the conclusion the fat man got that way by taking advantage of the thin one.
Margaret Thatcher once said, the problem with socialism is you eventually run out of other people's money.
So they're going to solve all the problems of human misery through government and government planning.
And there is hardly anybody who will defend the public housing program as having improved the housing of the poor.
The government has now made living off welfare a lifestyle choice.
Well, now, if government planning and welfare had the answer, and they've had almost 30 years of it, shouldn't we expect government to read the score to us once in a while?
When I said change we can believe in, I didn't say change we can believe in tomorrow.
Shouldn't they be telling us about the decline each year in the number of people needing help? But the reverse is true. Each year, the need grows greater.
You pay people to be unemployed, you'll get more unemployment.
Welfare spending 10 times greater than it was in the dark depths of the Depression. What are we doing to those we seek to help? For 3 decades, we've sought to solve the problems of unemployment through government planning, and the more the plans fail, the more the planners plan. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
GoDaddy offers everything you need to make a name for yourself on the web, from domain names and website builders to complete e-commerce solutions. We've earned our place as the world's #1 accredited domain registrar by delivering world-class products at competitive prices and support them with industry-best services delivered 24/7, 365. We're proud to serve our customers from locations around the world. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com and get your domain name as low as $5.99 a year. Sign up now at wdeanshook.com. Go, Daddy. Go, Daddy.
There is a sense in the world. There's a sense among believers. There's a sense among unbelievers. There's a sense among all peoples that things are unhinged. The Middle East is unhinged with uprisings, revolutions, and where's this heading?
are followers of Jesus to relate to all of these things? How do they relate to biblical prophecy? America is in spiritual, moral crisis. Values are changing, and so